My name is Sarah, and I'm 38 years old. The key turned in the lock with a chilling metallic screech that sliced through the silence like a rusted blade. A sound I once cherished as the heartbeat of my marriage, but now marked the descent into a living hell forged from betrayal and despair. For 15 agonizing years, that click had signaled Mark, my husband, returning home. Safety, partnership, the fragile illusion of a shared life I'd poured my soul, my sweat, and my tears into building. Brick by brick, on a foundation of hope. But on that cursed Tuesday night, cloaked in the oppressive darkness of a storm-ravaged sky, it was the ominous toll of a guillotine crashing down, severing my world in two with a finality that echoed in my bones. The door flew open with a violent bang, and Mark stormed in, his eyes blazing with a manic, predatory gleam that turned my blood to ice, his presence a harbinger of doom. He didn't offer a word of greeting. Didn't even glance at me folding laundry in the living room, my hands trembling from exhaustion after another 12-hour shift, the fabric slipping through my fingers like sand. Instead, he hurled a crumpled lottery ticket onto the coffee table with a force that made it skid across the wood, leaving a faint scratch as a scar on our shared history, his hands shaking, not with fear or illness, but with a sinister electric triumph, like a storm god reveling in the destruction he'd wrought. "I won," he hissed, his voice a venomous whisper that slithered through the air, coiling around my heart with a grip of dread that squeezed the breath from my lungs. I froze, staring at the ticket, its edges curling like a serpent's tongue, then at him, a tentative smile trembling on my lips as a flicker of hope ignited. A fragile ember in the ashes of our struggles, our shared ritual of $2 lottery tickets, a desperate dream we'd clung to through years of hardship, finally bearing fruit against all odds. "How much?" I gasped, my voice quivering, heart pounding with a chaotic mix of joy and a growing, inexplicable terror that clawed at the edges of my mind. $19 million, he declared, the words exploding like a thunderclap, reverberating through the room with a weight that crushed the air from my lungs, the number hanging between us like a guillotine's blade. "After taxes, 12.4. Tears stung my eyes, hot and unrelenting. As I leapt to my feet, arms outstretched to embrace him, a tidal wave of relief crashing over me. Our crushing debts that had kept me awake with nightmares, the second mortgage that loomed like a specter over every meal, the endless nights of worry etched into the lines of my face, all erased in a single, glorious instant that promised freedom at last. We were free. But as I reached for him, my fingers brushing the air where his warmth should have been, he recoiled. His hand shooting up like a barrier forged of ice, his gaze hardening into a glacial stare that froze the warmth between us into a brittle shard, shattering my hope into 1,000 icy fragments. "There's more," he said, his eyes darting away, avoiding the betrayal mirrored in mine, a coward hiding behind his newfound power, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur that sent a shiver down my spine. "I've filed for divorce. Papers will be served tomorrow." The room tilted violently, the floor seeming to ripple beneath me like a ship in a storm, my legs buckling as I collapsed onto the couch arm, the laundry spilling to the floor in a chaotic heap that mirrored the wreckage of my life. Each piece of fabric a testament to the love I'd poured into a marriage now reduced to rubble. "What?" "Mark, we won!" I cried, my voice breaking, desperation clawing at my throat like a trapped animal, my hands clutching the cushion as if it could anchor me to a reality that was slipping away. The words echoing in the hollow space between us. "No," he snapped, his eyes locking onto mine with a cold, calculating intensity that erased the man I'd loved for 15 years, replacing him with a stranger cloaked in greed and malice, his face a mask of triumph carved from stone. "I won. I'm done with you. Get out. Tonight." His smirk was a blade, twisting deeper as he surveyed the room like a conqueror claiming spoils. Believing his millions crowned him king, and I was mere trash to discard with a flick of his wrist, his voice laced with a venom that dripped like acid. But he had no inkling of the legal chains binding us, ironclad laws that would bind his fortune to mine, or the earth-shattering surprise I held in reserve, a windfall that would shatter his delusions into 1,000 jagged pieces and ignite a firestorm of retribution that would consume him in its flames. Our marriage was a facade I'd built with my own blood, sweat, and tears, a foundation of sacrifice he trampled underfoot with ruthless abandon, each step a betrayal etched into the scars of my soul. I met Mark in college, his charm and grandiloquent dreams blinding me to the hollow ambition beneath his silver tongue, his words a siren's song that lured me into a trap I couldn't escape. He painted our future with bold, vivid strokes, promises of an empire that would rival the stars, a kingdom where we'd rule together, while I, the practical one, fell hard, my heart ensnared, unaware it was his empire alone, with me as the unseen scaffold, toiling in the shadows, my hands calloused from the labor he ignored. We married a year after graduation in my parents' backyard, a modest affair we could barely afford, the grass stained with the sweat of my efforts, my vows trembling with tears as I pledged to support him through poverty and wealth, naively believing wealth would unite us in triumph, a bond forged in love. I never imagined it would be the knife that severed my heart, the blade wielded by the man I'd given everything to. I took a punishing paralegal job, the hours stretching into a relentless marathon, funneling my entire salary into his first venture. A tech app he swore would change the world, his voice ringing with conviction as he sketched its future on napkins, only for it to crash spectacularly, draining 30,000 of my hard-earned savings in a single, devastating blow that left me staring at an empty bank account. I didn't flinch. I believed in him, my faith a shield against the doubt that gnawed at me, moving us to a cramped, mold-ridden apartment where the walls seemed to close in, taking freelance gigs on weekends, typing until my fingers bled and my vision blurred with exhaustion, the clatter of the keyboard a lullaby to my despair. He dubbed it our hustle phase, a romantic struggle for him, a badge of honor he wore with pride, while for me it was a relentless, soul-crushing grind, my body aching, my spirit fraying at the edges. His next scheme, a gourmet food truck, demanded a second mortgage on the house my parents had scraped and saved to help us buy, a debt that hung over us like a guillotine, its shadow darkening every corner of our lives. I rose at 4 a.m., the pre-dawn chill biting at my skin. To bake artisanal bread, my hands raw and blistered from the dough. The oven's heat a cruel companion, then dragged myself to my day job, the weight of the world on my shoulders, spending weekends distributing flyers in the blistering sun that scorched my skin, and serving sandwiches with a smile that masked the exhaustion threatening to consume me, my voice hoarse from calling out to indifferent passers-by, until it too collapsed under a mountain of debt, leaving us teetering on the edge of ruin. The truck a rusted relic of his failed dreams. Through every failure I stood unwavering, a rock against the storm, my resolve a fortress. Even when his mother's illness forced her frail, trembling form into our home, a burden he shirked with callous ease. For 2 years I bathed her frail body, my hands gentle but weary, fed her with trembling hands as her appetite faded, managed her endless medications with a precision born of desperation, and held her hand as she slipped away in the dead of night. Her final breath a silent accusation against Mark's absence, her eyes seeking him in vain. He escaped to business conferences, his suitcase packed with lies, leaving me to grieve alone. His excuses a thin veil over his cowardice, the silence of her passing a weight on my chest. My world shrank to his orbit, my career, hobbies, and friends sacrificed on the altar of his insatiable ego, my laughter replaced by the echo of his demands. I convinced myself this was marriage, a partnership forged in love, a dance of give and take, blind to the fact I was the only one rowing the boat, my oars splintering under the weight of his indifference, my strength sapped by his relentless need. The lottery tickets were my lifeline, a fragile thread of hope I clung to when all else failed, often bought with the last dollars scraped from our grocery budget when he forgot his promises, the crinkle of the paper a prayer in the dark. I dreamed of clearing our debts, the numbers that haunted me erased with a stroke, traveling to distant lands where the air was free of his shadow, opening my cherished bookstore filled with the scent of old paper and possibility, a sanctuary where my soul could breathe. Dreams he nodded at with vacant, calculating eyes, already plotting my exclusion from his glittering future. His silence a louder betrayal than his words. That week, he bought the winning ticket, a fluke of fate that aligned with his greed, and in his warped, narcissistic mind, it erased my 15 years of toil, reducing me to a footnote in his triumph, a ghost in the narrative he crafted. Out tonight, he barked, his voice a thunderclap, storming off to consult a lawyer and check into a luxury hotel where the sheets would be softer than my tears, leaving me to wander our home in a daze. Every photo a stab to the heart, every scuff on the floorboards a memory he sold out from under me with a signature. He flaunted his new life on social media, a digital throne of vanity, with a blonde, Tiffany, her vacant smile plastered across posts from Tahiti, her bikini a banner of his conquest, while I sobbed on my sister's air mattress. The springs digging into my back, divorce papers branding me with a measly $20,000 offer, a slap in the face for my decades of devotion, a wound that bled with every breath, the ink a scar on my soul. Rage surged like a wildfire, igniting a resolve I didn't know I possessed, a furnace of fury that melted my despair into steel, my hands clenching into fists as I vowed to fight. I scraped together my last savings, every penny a testament to my survival, a coin earned through blood, and hired Eleanor Vance, a steely attorney with eyes like sharpened blades, her presence a fortress, who became my shield and sword in this war he'd declared. She unveiled California's community property laws with a predator's grin, her voice a blade cutting through his lies. The $12.4 million was ours to split 50-50. His attempt to hide it a legal blunder that strengthened my case, his arrogance a noose tightening around his neck with every smug word. But the true bombshell dropped 3 months later, a twist so seismic it rewrote my fate with a pen of gold. A lawyer's call, delivered in a voice thick with formality, announced my reclusive Aunt Mildred's death. A woman I'd met only a handful of times. Her paint-stained fingers and kind eyes a faint memory from childhood visits. Her presence a whisper in the chaos of my youth. A week later, her will arrived. A thick envelope that trembled in my hands as I tore it open at my cheap kitchen table. The wood scarred from years of struggle, revealing she'd left me her entire estate. Her sprawling home perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, her unsold art a gallery of genius, and a portfolio of investments that glittered like stars. Valued at over $35 million, nearly triple Mark's win. Her shrewd investments had turned a modest property into a prime tourist hotspot. Her paintings, once dismissed as eccentric by a world too blind to see, now masterpieces coveted by galleries, their value a testament to her silent power. I sat stunned, the number blurring before my eyes, a fortune that dwarfed his lottery luck, my breath catching in my throat as the reality sank in. Eleanor confirmed it was mine alone, post-separation, untouchable by his grasping hands, a treasure he could never claim. We decided to keep it secret, a dagger hidden in my sleeve, letting his arrogance fester like a wound as I quietly traveled to California to claim my new dominion. The salt air a balm to my battered spirit. The settlement day arrived, a storm brewing in my chest, a tempest of nerves and vengeance that roared with every heartbeat. I entered the courthouse in a navy blue dress, my armor, stitched with the threads of my resilience, each seam a scar of survival. Facing Mark, tan and smug in an expensive suit that screamed his newfound wealth. The fabric a mockery of the life I'd built, Tiffany clinging to him like a leech. Her too-tight dress a garish display of his triumph, her laughter a dagger in my side. Judge Diaz, a formidable woman with a voice like thunder rolling across the plains, cut through the tension with surgical precision, her gavel a symbol of justice. "Mr. Henderson, you claim the lottery winnings as separate property?" she asked, her gaze piercing through his facade. His lawyer, Brent, oozed confidence, a snake oil salesman in a tailored coat, arguing it was a fluke of fortune, a flimsy excuse that crumbled under her scrutiny. His words a house of cards in a gale. California law is clear. Marital property, 50-50 split, she ruled, wiping the smirk from Mark's face with a single stroke, her voice a verdict that echoed in the silence. Eleanor seized the moment, her voice a whip cracking through the air, detailing my 15 years of sacrifice, funding his failures with my blood, the ink of my checks a river of loss, caring for his mother with my tears, her final breath a weight on my soul, arguing his bad faith deserved a reckoning, her words a fire that scorched his pride. The judge agreed, ordering the $12.4 million split evenly, $6.2 million each, a sum that paled beside my secret, and forcing Mark to cover my legal fees, his face twisting into a mask of rage, his hands clenching as if to strangle the air. But the plot twist erupted like a volcano when Eleanor smiled. A predator's grin that sent a shiver through the room, her teeth bared in triumph. My client won't seek alimony, not because he's generous, but because she doesn't need it. She purred, her eyes locking onto Mark's with a gleeful malice that made his smugness falter. He relaxed, the tension easing from his shoulders, smugness creeping back like a shadow, until she continued, her voice a thunderclap. 3 months ago, post-separation, she inherited over $35 million. The room fell silent, a vacuum of shock that sucked the breath from every lung, Mark's face draining to ash, his eyes widening in disbelief. Tiffany's hand slipping from his as if burned by the revelation, her gasp a whisper in the void. Judge Diaz suppressed a smile, her lips twitching with amusement, finalizing the split. No alimony, Mark's fees added, his defeat sealed with the stamp of law, her gavel a final blow. As I left the courthouse, free under the blinding sunlight that warmed my skin for the first time in months, Mark's empire unraveled. Cars sold at a loss, the gleam of metal dulled by desperation, mansion deposit forfeited to a developer's greed, Tiffany vanishing with a wealthier prey, her departure a silent judgment, his fair-weather friends scattering like rats from a sinking ship, their laughter fading into the distance. The aftermath was a quiet tempest, a storm of paperwork and triumph that filled my days with purpose. My $6.2 million was justice, a bitter pill he choked on with every swallow. My $35 million, a liberation that lifted me to new heights, a throne built on my own terms. I paid off my parents' mortgage, their tears a treasure beyond gold, a moment of redemption that healed old wounds, their embrace a fortress against the past, the weight of their gratitude lifting a burden from my shoulders. I bought a historic building downtown, its walls whispering with history, transforming it into the Next Chapter bookstore, its scent of old paper and fresh coffee a balm to my battered soul, its grand opening a celebration marred by a sinister shadow that crept across the threshold. An anonymous letter arrived that night, its ink smeared with rage, the paper creased with fury. You stole his life. We'll make you pay. My blood ran cold, a shiver racing down my spine. Mark's allies, perhaps, or a new enemy born from his ruin. Their intent a dagger aimed at my heart. I hired security, their presence a shield, the threat lingering like a ghost, a whisper in the dark that haunted my dreams, the rustle of leaves outside my window a constant reminder of danger. I launched a charity for female artists in Aunt Mildred's name, its gala a dazzling affair where I unveiled her paintings, each stroke a testament to her genius, each sale funding dreams she'd never lived to see. The room alive with applause and the clink of glasses. I traveled. Florence's cobbled streets, where the art whispered secrets of the Renaissance, Peru's ancient ruins, their stones a testament to endurance, Kyoto's serene temples, their peace a balm to my soul, rediscovering myself, my laughter echoing in places Mark's shadow could never reach, my footsteps a rebellion against his chains. But the drama escalated, a tide rising to drown me. Mark, desperate, his pride a wounded beast, hired a private investigator to dig into my inheritance. His appeal dismissed with sanctions that drained him further, his wallet thinning with every legal blow. His condo became a prison, its walls closing in, his sedan a symbol of defeat, its engine a hum of resignation, his bitterness a poison he drank alone, his eyes hollow with regret. Then came the plot twist's dark turn. Tiffany reappeared. Not with a new man, but as a witness for Mark. Her voice a serpent's hiss, claiming I'd coerced Aunt Mildred's will. A lie so brazen it forced a countersuit. Her testimony a web of deceit spun with trembling hands. The courtroom battle raged, Eleanor dismantling Tiffany's testimony with ruthless precision, her questions a scalpel cutting through the lies, revealing her own financial motives. A debt-ridden past that drove her to Mark's side. Her fall from grace a public spectacle that left her disgraced and penniless, her sobs echoing in the gallery. A year passed. My life a tapestry of triumph and tension, the threads interwoven with shadows. The bookstore thrived, its armchairs filled with readers, their murmurs a symphony, its profits funding my foundation, a beacon of hope. But the threats persisted, vandalized windows, the glass shattering like my past, whispered warnings in the night. Their breath cold against my ear, culminating in a midnight break-in. The intruder's footsteps a drumbeat of fear, thwarted by my security team, their flashlights cutting through the dark. The intruder, a hired thug with a scarred face and trembling hands, his breath reeking of cheap whiskey, confessed Mark's involvement, his rage driving him to sabotage me. A final act of spite from a man unraveling, his voice breaking as he spilled the details. I pressed charges, the trial a media frenzy. His face plastered across headlines as a villain undone by his own greed, the cameras flashing like vultures circling a carcass. Convicted, he faced jail time, his empire a smoldering ruin, his once proud smirk replaced by a hollow stare behind bars, the clang of the cell door a requiem for his dreams. Yet the drama deepened, the abyss opening beneath my feet. A second letter arrived, this time typed with chilling precision, the font a sterile mask for menace. The money isn't yours. The truth will destroy you. My heart raced, a drumbeat of panic. Could Aunt Mildred's fortune hide a darker secret? A shadow cast by her legacy? I dug into her past, my hands trembling as I sifted through the estate, uncovering a locked diary in her attic, its leather cover worn with time, its pages revealing a family scandal that chilled my blood. She'd amassed her wealth partly through a disputed inheritance from my grandfather, stolen from a cousin, Elena, who vanished decades ago. Her disappearance a mystery shrouded in whispers. The revelation shook me. My fortune was tainted, built on a foundation of theft, and Elena's descendants might claim it, their rage a specter in the night. A shadowy figure began shadowing me, a woman with piercing green eyes that burned with hatred, her presence a ghost at every turn, hinting at vengeance with a voice like gravel. I hired a private investigator, his trench coat a silhouette against the rain, uncovering Elena's granddaughter. Lila, a bitter artist whose life had crumbled after her family's loss, her canvases a gallery of pain. Lila confronted me at the bookstore, her voice a hiss of rage that cut through the hum of pages, her finger pointing like an accusation. You sit on my birthright, a throne built on my grandmother's tears. The standoff ended with her storming out, her coat flapping like a bat's wings, but not before vowing to expose me, her words a promise of war. The legal battle intensified. A storm raging in the courts. Lila sued, alleging fraud, her case bolstered by forged documents suggesting Aunt Mildred's will was manipulated. The paper a forgery so convincing it swayed initial opinion. Her lawyer a shark in a pinstripe suit. Eleanor fought back, her arguments a fortress, but the strain wore on me. Sleepless nights, my eyes ringed with exhaustion, public scrutiny that painted me as a villainess. The headlines a barrage of lies. And a bomb threat at the bookstore forced an evacuation, the sirens a wail of chaos, the crowd scattering like leaves. I traced the threat to Mark's former business partner, Victor, a man I'd once trusted, his handshake a lie, now embittered by Mark's downfall and my rise, his office a den of resentment. Victor admitted to aiding Lila, hoping to reclaim lost profits from the tech app's collapse. His confession a tangled web of greed and revenge, his voice breaking under the weight of his guilt. The trial pitted me against both Lila and Victor, the courtroom a battlefield of lies and accusations, the jury's eyes a mirror of doubt. Eleanor uncovered Victor's forgery, discrediting Lila's claim with evidence that sent the room into an uproar, the gavel a thunderclap, but not before Lila's story went viral, a wildfire of misinformation that painted me as a heartless thief. The protests outside my bookstore a chorus of anger, their signs a blur of red. Public backlash hit hard. Boycotts of my charity, the donations drying up like a desert stream, protests that blocked my door, their chants a drumbeat of rage. Yet I stood firm, using the platform to share my truth, my resilience a beacon that drew allies from the shadows, my voice a clarion call. The judge ruled in my favor, declaring the inheritance mine, a victory that echoed through the halls but imposed a settlement. I'd fund an art scholarship in Elena's name, a compromise that silenced Lila, though her hatred lingered, her eyes a promise of retribution as she left the courtroom. Victor faced fraud charges, his empire collapsing as mine grew stronger, his arrest a headline that faded into obscurity. The ordeal left scars. My security tightened, their footsteps a constant guard, my trust shattered into fragments, but also forged a new strength, a steel that gleamed in the fire. A new threat emerged, a blackmailer with photos of Aunt Mildred's shady dealings, the images grainy but damning, demanding $5 million or threatening to ruin my reputation, the envelope a serpent's hiss. I refused, my resolve a wall, tracing the source to a disgruntled ex-employee of Victor's, his face a mask of desperation, whose arrest ended the scheme, the handcuffs a clink of justice. Meanwhile, Mark's jail term ended, his release a quiet shadow that crept across my path. Rumors of his plotting with old allies to reclaim his dignity fueled my vigilance, his silhouette a ghost in the night. I hired a cybersecurity expert, his screen a battlefield, uncovering a hacking attempt on my accounts, a digital assault that threatened my fortune. Thwarted just in time. The code a labyrinth of malice. The drama peaked when a fire broke out at the bookstore, the flames a roar of destruction. Arson suspected. The smoke a shroud that choked the air, though no culprit was caught. The ashes a stark reminder of my enemy's reach. The sirens a lament in the dawn. I rebuilt, the structure rising from the ruins like a phoenix, grander than before, its reopening a triumph marred by a cryptic note slipped under the door. This isn't over. I suspected Mark or Lila, their shadows merging in my mind, but evidence eluded me, the ink a riddle unsolved. My charity flourished. Its events a celebration of resilience. My travels continued. Santorini's cliffs, where the sea whispered secrets, Morocco's markets, their colors a tapestry of life. Iceland's glaciers, their ice a mirror of my soul. Each journey a defiance of my past, a step toward freedom. I wrote a memoir, From Ashes to Empire, its pages a confession and a triumph, its release a bestseller that topped charts, its profits funding a legal defense fund for women like me, their stories a chorus of strength. Mark, broken and alone, faded into obscurity. His last letter, a plea for reconciliation, the paper stained with his tears, met with silence, my heart a void where his shadow once loomed, the delete button a final act of closure. My fortune, now $45 million with growth from wise investments, was a shield, my strength a legacy that echoed through the halls of my empire. But the shadow of unfinished battles loomed. Would Lila return, her vengeance a storm on the horizon? Would Mark strike again, his desperation a spark in the dark? The uncertainty fueled my resolve, a fire that burned brighter with each challenge. What would you have done? Share below and brace for the next chapter.